All right, let's dive into a really fascinating idea for the U.S. Army. It's a proposal that's been around for a while, but it's all about tapping into this huge, basically untouched pool of American talent and patriotism.
So we're going to start with a pretty simple question, but one that really gets you thinking. How is it that the U.S. Army, the oldest and biggest branch of our military, is the only one that doesn't have a volunteer auxiliary?
And this lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? The Air Force has the Civil Air Patrol. The Coast Guard has its auxiliary. Both are incredible, super effective volunteer groups. But then you get to the Army, and it's just the blank space. So this whole explainer is really about making the case for filling in that question mark.
Now, it's really important to know this isn't some brand new idea somebody just cooked up. People have been talking about this for decades. But now, well, things have changed, and that's making this idea more urgent than it's ever been before.
So, why the big push right now? Well, it all comes down to the incredible strain on our entire Army force. I mean, think about it. Constant deployments, domestic missions, our active, Guard, and Reserve soldiers are stretched incredibly thin. The argument is that a volunteer auxiliary has gone from a, hey, that'd be nice to have idea, to an absolute, we really need this, necessity.
Okay, so what are the specific problems that an auxiliary could actually help solve? Let's break down the why behind this whole thing.
You know, the Army is dealing with a ton of modern challenges. Everything from hitting recruiting goals, to helping out after natural disasters, to fighting off cyber attacks. The demands are just immense. An auxiliary could step in and provide support in all of these areas, tapping into all the amazing skills civilians have and their desire to serve the country.
So, what would this actually look like in the real world? The idea is to create a formal, organized, and uniformed volunteer force.
And here's the core concept right here. It'd be called the U.S. Army Auxiliary, or USA AUX for short. And the key things to remember are these. They'd be uniformed, but, and this is a big but, non-combatant. They would be unpaid volunteers, so we're not talking about creating some huge, expensive new government department. And super important, they would operate officially under the Department of the Army.
So who would actually join something like this? Well, this is the really cool part. A whole mix of different Americans. You'd have veterans who want to stay connected to that sense of mission. You'd have civilian pros, cybersecurity experts, nurses, lawyers, offering up their skills. You'd have patriotic folks who just want a way to give back without having to enlist. And this is a big one. You'd create a path for young people through a totally new cadet program.
Okay, so we've got the people, but what would they do? I mean, what are the actual practical jobs they could take on?
In today's world, this is a huge one. Just imagine, civilian IT and cybersecurity whizzes volunteering to help with network monitoring, testing for weaknesses, and helping out with training exercises. That is what you call a massive force multiplier.
Or how about this? Think about a big public health crisis or a major emergency. Volunteer nurses and medical staff could step in to handle administrative tasks and non-critical care. That would free up our military medical teams to focus on the most urgent life-saving work.
Right, and when a hurricane hits or a wildfire is raging, these auxiliary members could be on the ground backing up FEMA and local first responders. They could help run shelters, manage logistics, and support command centers. They'd basically be a surge force for our communities when they need it most.
And this one might sound a little old school, but believe me, it is absolutely vital. We're talking about licensed amateur radio operators. Ham radio folks who can set up and run communications when the power is out and cell towers are down. In a disaster, that kind of skill is literally a lifeline.
Okay, let's zoom in on what might be one of the most exciting parts of this whole proposal, creating a new leadership program for America's youth.
Get ready for this number because it is just staggering. 15 million. That is how many high school students in the United States do not have access to a junior ROTC program. JROTC is an amazing program, but just think about that. A 15 million student opportunity gap for leadership education.
And this chart just puts that number in perspective. An overwhelming 85% of high schools in the country don't have a JROTC unit. So an Army Auxiliary Cadet Corps could step right into that huge void.
And here's the best part. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There's already a proven model we can follow. Just look at the Civil Air Patrol's cadet program. It's based in the community, it runs all year, and it isn't tied to school districts or their budgets. It's a flexible, volunteer-led system that the Army could pretty much copy and paste. Okay, so the case for this is really strong, and we've got a model that works. So how do we actually get from a good idea to a real thing? Well, the path forward is actually pretty straightforward.
It really just boils down to 3 simple steps for Congress. First, they pass a law that officially creates the USAOX. Second, that law lays out the rules of the road, what they can do, how they're organized. And third, Congress authorizes a little bit of seed money just to get the basic administration and safety stuff up and running. It's a totally actionable plan.
And this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. This is not a call for a new bureaucracy. It is a call to implement a proven model that already exists in other services. In other words, this isn't about creating more red tape. It's about being smart and using a playbook that's already working for the Air Force and the Coast Guard. So we'll leave you with this final thought. We're living in an era with some really complex threats and challenges. So does it really make sense to leave this incredible resource, all the skills, the experience, and the patriotism of the American people, just sitting on the sidelines? Or is it finally time for the Army to open up a new door for service?